Can you paint on a plane? Absolutely you can, as long as you follow a couple different rules and then also know a little bit about managing your supplies. First and foremost, make sure that you are following any of the rules of the plane. The plane flight I was on was actually an 8-hour flight, and I waited until about an hour into this, once everything had settled down and the seatbelt signs were off and things like that, so that I knew that it was safe for me to get everything out. Now, it probably would have been a better idea for me to use a smaller set of watercolors here, but I had been using these other watercolors and colors throughout my sketchbook, so I wanted to stick with them. So I just kind of piled everything on top of this. My key here is to put my rag. I bring a reusable rag that's also not anybody else's problem. Once I'm done, I can just kind of pack it away, and it also helps me keep the mess under control. I keep that on the right side where I'm going to be wiping my paintbrush off, and then I also put any of my little implements like paintbrushes or pens that I'm going to be using right on top of that rag. The majority of my tray table was taken up with my palette. Again, if you had a smaller one, that would probably be more optimal. And then I use a pretty small little sketchbook, so it makes it fairly manageable, and I tend to hold mine most of the time when I'm painting anyways, because that way I can control the angle, so I can kind of control how the water is flowing around it. I just kind of hold it off to the side away from the paints, and then I can dip into the paints, and I'm using a water brush here, so I don't have to have those 2 cups of water, which is a huge space saver. The water brush can be used to activate the paints by just dropping a little water on them, and then you can clean your brush out in between by just kind of swirling on your rag and squeezing out a bit, and it's fairly easy to refill as you need to during your journey. I refilled mine about 2 or 3 different times, and I did actually end up painting for quite a bit of time during this plane flight. In all, I think I spent about 3.5 hours of this flight painting. I mean, a little bit interspersed with me just staring out the window, because we did go over Greenland at this time, and we could actually see things, and then we also saw lots of icebergs in the water. But either way, it was a great way to, do something and then look up and you're like, oh, wow, there's only 3 hours left of the flight, which is still a long flight, but it is a lot less than 8 hours, which is what I started with.